Welcome to the first episode of Reinventing Perspectives for 2022. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've had time to rest, to reflect, to recalibrate yourself, and make sure you're on mission to do what you have to do on this journey. Well, today I've got an amazing guest for you. If you've been wondering how to become a professional speaker or how to add professional speaking to your offering, or maybe you just realize that now is the time when being on video is no longer an option for your content marketing, and you want to figure out, how to go about it, how to get comfortable being on camera, how to get comfortable speaking in that way because your marketing needs it. Or maybe you're just a person who gives keynotes on a regular basis as a business leader or as a leader in your community, and you just want to get some tips on how to take your speaking to that next level. Well, this is the conversation for you. Today I speak to Dan Ram, and he's an international MC, and he is known as Europe's leading tech summit MC. I'm telling you, in this conversation, you're in for a treat. So have a listen. Today we have an amazing guest. I know I always say this, but this is a truly amazing guest. Dan, welcome to Reinventing Perspectives.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, Dan. Well, you know what? Let us know, who are you and what are you about?
Well, I go by Dan Ram, which is short for Daniel Ramamurthy. As you can probably tell from the last name, I am of Indian origin. I grew up in 10 countries on 4 continents around the world, so being international is part of who I am. As far as what I do, I am a full-time event host. So I MC and moderate. I introduce major tech conferences. I interview change makers, whether they're billionaire founders or investors or Formula One winners or athletes and musicians, the best of the best. That's my job, to interview them and to, of course, create epic experiences for audiences. That's what I do. But why I do what I do? Because I love my mission of start now, start simple. I'm here on this planet to help people achieve what they believe is their inner purpose. And I do that with start now, start simple.
That sounds very exciting. What led to you becoming an international MC?
Well, it is part coincidence and part self-discovery. Right? I have bought into this idea that life is just one big school. I am constantly learning, constantly growing. Being on podcasts like this gives me some new insights about you and about myself, reading, observing the world around me. So I'm totally all in on this idea of constant growth and development and being a student. And so from my early days, when I remember even being in school, I used to love volunteering in the UN or with KPMG. Those were my first couple jobs. That was also discovery. Who am I in the professional space? Part of the story of being an international MC was just self-discovery. And the other part is total chance. Now, I'm a person of faith, so I don't entirely believe in chance. I kind of believe that God kind of directs our path. But for sure, I never trained to be an MC. I didn't get a communications degree. I am an economics graduate from Yale University and an MBA graduate from Trinity College, and now I'm doing a PhD in entrepreneurship. And so it has nothing to do with communications or storytelling, which is the primary skill set of an international MC. And so some of it is just like life giving you these epic opportunities and platforms. That's it, those two things, a little bit of self-discovery, just trying stuff for some. All of my 20s were spent just trying things. I was a radio presenter for a Christian radio station. I had my own show. It's called Monday Nights with Danny J on Spirit Radio. I was an advisor to the Prime Minister and to the Minister of Jobs, Enterprise, Innovation of the Irish government. I was a consultant. I was a lecturer. I was going on a school tour doing motivational talks. Like I said, I worked for the UN and KPMG. Then I worked for World Vision and Team Hope. I'm sharing all of that to say life's about just discovery. And I needed to try all those things to figure out where I fit in and where I did not. And then at the age of 31, all of a sudden it hit me. There was this chance to go on stage and to introduce a couple amazing founders. And I just truly, truly came alive. And that's how I became an international MC.
Wow. It shows just your personality. You're open to experiencing new things. As an international MC, a professional speaker, what are the things that you focus on now in terms of like honing your craft? Because I know a lot of the people who are listening who may be early entrepreneurs thinking about becoming professional speakers, and they're like, okay, Dan, Yeah, but where do I start? What do I focus on? How do I craft this thing to be, professional speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give a disclaimer and say that my answer is an introvert answer. So I'm an introvert, which may surprise some people because generally, if you watch any of my content online, you'll see this very charismatic, gregarious, larger than life kind of personality on stage. But I'm an introvert. And so my response to how I grow and develop as an MC is an introverted response. Number one, I spend a lot of time observing. So I watch magicians. Magicians are incredible storytellers. After all, they're tricking you, but they trick you by crafting their words and their stories, right? I watch stand-up comedians. Often they have to work with hostile audiences to make them laugh, and they also are expert storytellers. And I watch the obvious things like TEDx talks and others, because that's a beautiful platform to see how amazing storytellers tell their stories. So I spend a lot of time observing. Second, I spend a lot of time practicing. I will frequently record bits on my phone, just audio notes, and I'll listen back again and I'll see how well can I keep my own attention and convey emotions just using my voice. And then I'll record a lot on camera. I'll also stand in front of the mirror and practice, but I really, really believe in the power of practicing and not simply winging it. Honestly, Priscilla, I even practice things like my opening line, which usually is something along the lines of, "Good morning, everybody, and welcome to," followed by the name of the event. But there's a big difference between saying, "Good morning, everybody, and welcome to," versus "Good morning and welcome to," right? Very different. I said the same words, but it conveys totally different energies. And so I'll even practice that. Sometimes even good morning sounds too formal. If it's too informal, I might say something like, "Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, welcome to." That's a very formal kind of start, which you often have to do in the Middle East. But if I'm, say, somewhere in the US, I might start something a little bit more casual. I'll be like, "Hey, what's going on, everybody? You guys feeling good? Well, here we are. Welcome to," right? So I practice even the most basic things. I really believe in practicing. Third, I'm always asking questions. I know in this particular circumstance, you're asking the questions, but I'm answering them. But most often, I love asking questions, even things that are outside of the scope of my work. For example, I hold a microphone, but most moderators and speakers get lazy and they're satisfied with just holding a microphone. Do we really understand how sound is amplified and how it works? Well, for me, I'm a nerd, right? I'm an introverted nerd. So I'll ask the sound guys, "Tell me about the latest microphone. Tell me about what works and what doesn't. Why does that feedback happen sometimes? What's the most optimal space and position to hold a mic?" I mean, after all, it's a tool that speakers use. But I'm curious about even those things or the lights on stage. Later on, I'll see in some photos that I really like how I look. And sometimes I'll think I really don't like how I look. The difference is the lighting. And so I'll ask questions about that and go, "All right, what kind of filters are you using? What kind of color grading are you using? What kind of editing are you doing? What's the position of the light? And how does it create different shadows on my face or on my body?" So I ask tons of questions all the time. I think that really sets me apart and sets other professional speakers apart if you just constantly ask questions and keep learning. So I'd say those are a couple of things that I do on the constant. I'm like a consultant to myself. I'll always look back again and think, okay, what did I do well? What can I improve? What did I do? What can I improve? So these are the introverted responses. Maybe an extrovert will give you different responses and be like, get out on stage more, try things out, interact with people, put yourself out there. But an introvert like me will go like study more, practice more, ask more questions, and that's how I keep growing.
That's really, really amazing. Now, I have to ask this, Dan, because even for our audience that are not particularly speakers or interested in being a speaker, there's a lot of that push in social media marketing and advertising to be on camera. And most people are uncomfortable with being on camera.
Yeah.
Now, how did you initially get used to just how you look or how you perceive yourself on camera?
That is such a good question. And I have to say that I was one of those people, and I'm not that person anymore. And that is a journey by itself. And this comes back to my motto for almost everything, which is start now and start simple. I remember I was in church, and this Brazilian guy came up to me afterwards, and he said, "Dan, I really like your personality. I like the energy. And can I help you build your brand?" And honestly, I had no idea what a brand was. I'd never worked with a graphic designer, never worked with a personal brand person. I never worked with any of that stuff. I was just a person. My name was Daniel. I wasn't a brand. But I engaged with it. I said, sure, let's talk. And so we met, and he brought a camera along. And it was so uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say. And as soon as he said action, I was like, action what? Like, is someone going to script this to me? And where should I stand? Where should I look? Should I look directly at the lens of the camera? Should I look to the side? Should I be walking? Should I be standing? Are we doing this outdoors? Are we doing this indoors? Do I look fine? Like, there was endless questions. And the truth is, you can't find all those answers just by sitting and reading. At some point, you just got to act. And so we recorded our first bit. And I remember it was by kind of a little creek in Dublin, Ireland. And I decided I just wanted to stand by a tree and do my little bit. And I spoke for about 60 seconds. What I liked was the brevity of it. I liked how short and crisp it was. I loved that I took a complex idea and I broke it down to 2 or 3 actionable items in less than 60 seconds. And I thought, oh, that's really cool because the attention spans are so short. But I didn't like that I was standing. That didn't look so good. Anyway, we posted it and I got some feedback and that was great. The next time I said, let's create some movement. And so I sat in my car and we recorded that way. But I realized that the side profile is so not flattering. So when you sit in a car and someone's sitting next to you with a camera right up to the side of your face, you can see double chins and nostril hairs and everything. And so I was like, no, thank you. I don't like this angle. We're not going to do that again. The third time, I had the cameraman walk in front of me and I faced him and walked talking to the camera, almost like I was talking to a friend. And we were walking side by side. And I really like this. I like this idea of almost like a conversation that I'm having with someone. And so this is part of just trying stuff out, Priscilla. And for anyone listening, you just got to try it out. Sure, there's tons of great options and models and role models out there, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can look and see what appeals to you. But also you just got to try things. Even though I'm pretty talkative and I can give very long answers. If you watch any of my social media content, they're usually under 2 minutes. Like they're really, really short. And that's just a style that I've chosen. When I'm on stage, sometimes I do a 45-minute keynote. But when I'm on social media, it's all 2-minute videos. And that's just been kind of my niche. And so you just got to try things and get more comfortable. There were certain angles I didn't like and I'll refuse. And then there'll be others that I really love and you get more used to that. Same with where you look to a camera or how you prepare to a camera. So it's just a matter of getting comfortable. It's like trying to learn a new language. It sounds funny the first couple times when those words come out of your mouth, and before you know it, as long as you put the work into it, it's second nature. You start dreaming in another language. I will say this though, being online is no more negotiable. I know like 10 years ago, we just talked about it. Like, should we be online? Should we not? Is it helpful to have social media or not? Now, that option's gone. If you don't live online, you don't exist. That's just the reality of it. So, yes, absolutely embrace social media and get comfortable with putting yourself out there in any form, whether on camera, by voice, or in written form.
Very true, Dan. Since you talked about doing keynotes, you go in front of the audience and things are not going well. You look around and you can sense that things are not going well. How do you recover?
Ooh, really good question. You got great questions, Priscilla. I love it. When I prepare, always think about why I'm on stage. All right. And I can usually distill that down to one sentence. So it's either a specific message that needs to be shared, or an insight that needs to be shared, or some kind of announcement that is being made. And I never come up with that independently. I always ask the event organizers, who's the audience? Who's in the room? Tell me the demographic. Tell me the male-female split. Tell me their age group. Tell me their expectations. Tell me why they're there. I do a lot of background research. It's not like I have a talk and I just deliver the talk. I curate the talk for that specific audience. So I have to say, I've been fortunate that the situation you have shared has never, ever, ever happened in my life. Not once. But it does happen, and I've seen other speakers bomb. And then I say, bring it back to why you're there. Because sometimes the methodology is not working. For example, you might have terribly boring slides, and you realize that you've killed the energy in the room. In which case, get rid of the slides and stick to why you're there. Right? If you've got a message to share, you don't need to do it with slides. Alternatively, it might be the setup. So maybe the stage is just too far and too high that it creates this incredible distance between you and the audience. In which case, grab that microphone, jump off stage, stand in the middle of the audience, make direct eye contact, and talk to people. Talk with people. Or maybe you've been talking for just too long. And that's why you've lost the audience. And so you need to do a little bit of engagement. So stop the spiel, stop the monologue, and do something like a body vote. A body vote is where you tell people to stand or raise their hand if they agree with the statement that you make. And it gets people to then interact with your talk. Or maybe you get a mic out into the audience and you get them to talk and get some of their feedback. The point is, if something is not working, you got to change it. But don't change why you're there. So focus on why you're there, but just find a different methodology. And those are just a couple quick options of things you can do spontaneously in the moment without any prep, as long as you know why you're there and you're ready to give it all so that you can communicate that why.
Wow, that's so good. I think that just everyone can remember that when that situation does happen. Dan, I'm going to ask you, how did you get your first gig as a professional speaker? Because I think that's a question that people would like to know. The first one, how do you go after it? Hey, small business family, quick pause here. If you've been listening and thinking, I need help getting clear on my message and how to actually market this amazing thing I've created, I've made something just for you. It's called the Clarity Intensive, and it's 2 focused sessions, one-on-one, where we untangle your ideas, map out your next best move, and build a foundation for real business momentum. If you're done thinking what's the right thing to do, and you're ready for a customized strategy that fits you, this is for you. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can visit the website www.reinventingperspectives.com/shop, and you'll see our Clarity Intensive 1-to-1 marketing coaching. Let's get back to the show.
You're not going to like this answer, but it's the honest answer. I don't chase things. I believe in alignment. All right. So it's a little bit of a philosophical answer. So I would try not to go too deep into it. But basically, I think there's 2 kinds of doing life. Either you set a goal and you set a destination and you do whatever it takes to get there, or you stick to your track that you believe is authentically, genuinely you. And what is meant to be shows up on your track. I'm more of the latter than the former, and I have great respect for either one, right? I've seen amazing success stories with either one of those. For me, what I have done, my starting point was the same starting point as most other people. Priscilla, you probably remember being back in school and being asked to stand up and read a passage out of a book or to give a presentation. That was my starting point. We all had the same starting point. The difference was I was terrible at it. I had a stutter. I was socially very shy, very introverted. I did not talk to people. I could not make eye contact. And worst of all, I had a terrible accent as a child. Growing up in so many countries, I had this very confused North African, Indian, French, British accent. And it just wasn't cool. And people would laugh at me. And I hated that they laughed at me, not with me, but at me. And so I avoided those circumstances until I decided one day, well, I'm bad at it. So what do I have to do to get better at it? And I started practicing and practicing. And then I made sure that I got better and better as a speaker, just in the classroom. But then in church, same thing. When the pastor said, can someone read the passage? I would never put my hand up. But if they gave me the passage, because I knew I'd do badly, you know what I would do? A few days before, I take that passage out and I start practicing. And then I'd memorize it. Because then I realized if I memorize it, I could focus on the delivery of it and not on just barely reading the words. Now, all the kids who were good at reading the passages didn't have to practice. They just showed up and they would flip the Bible open in the moment and then they would read it for the first time. Whereas I would come out there and I'd perform it because I was so bad at it. So by overcompensating, I actually started getting better than the ones who were naturally good at it, simply by overcompensation. That grew then into summer camps and family retreats. And then, when we had to organize games, instead of just kind of winging it, because I was so nervous about it, I would really plan. I'd go the extra mile. So quite naturally, I just get better than everyone else. So through that, years and years of volunteering in positions that most of your listeners and even you, Priscilla, would have been in, whether in the classroom or in the family home or even in a retreat or a camp, each of us have been in a position of speaking. The only difference is because I was fearful of it, I put in a lot of work into it. Just made me over-prepared. And that was the same thing that happened after years of volunteering. I found myself again volunteering at a tech conference. And the same conference that I had the year before competed in a pitching competition and lost, I was asked to come back and to MC it or moderate it. And I offered to do that for free just because I wanted to watch the others do it. But because I was fearful of it, I practiced every introduction. I thought about how I'd show up on stage. I thought about what I'd wear. I thought about the fillers, because tech goes wrong when you're live. And I thought, okay, if a presentation doesn't work or if a speaker doesn't show up, what are my backup plans? So I was so thoroughly prepared as best as I could. And that really impressed this lady who walked by, a German lady, and she gave me her business card and she said, Dan, love your energy on stage. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow. And true to her German stereotype, the next day she gave me a call and she said, Dan, I've got a small event that I'm doing in Munich. Would you be willing to be an MC? And I was so chuffed. I was so excited. I was like, this is amazing. I can fly to Munich. And then she said, what would be your offer? I had no idea what that even meant because, I had another job at that point and I was building my own startup. So I didn't think it was financial. So I said, okay, would you be kind enough to give me a place to stay while I'm there, but I'll book my own flights? And then she said, oh, no. We'll book your flights and your hotel, and it'll be like a 5-star hotel. But I want to know, how much should we pay you? And I wrote back saying, no. This is amazing. I get to travel to Munich, and, I was interviewing all of these, celebrities, and I was like, that's even just that. It's like, oh, but this is Germany, and the board won't approve it unless you give a price. So I was like, oh, I don't know, $100 for the day, I don't know, it's just pocket money. I just said, no, that's too little. I said, okay, you give me a number. So my first speaking gig offered me €500, which I was just like 500, and they're paying my flights and they're paying my hotel, and I get to interview the legends. This is insane. But I took it. Of course, my fees have increased a lot more because I bring a lot more to the table now. But that's how it all began. It's just, honestly, by being extra prepared for what are ordinary opportunities. And this is something I tell people all the time. The opportunities are not far away, right? The opportunities are all around us. They're right here. You have to honor them, not demean them. And that's what opens up the other doors down the road.
That's great. The first event you did, I'm sure they're just like, oh my gosh, we got her when he was so cheap.
Yes, and I'm very loyal to people, so we've stayed in touch over the years, and I keep helping them out. So yes.
Oh, that's great. COVID hits, and in-person comes to a halt. How do you pivot your business as a speaker?
What a great question. So my PhD is about adapting. I think it is one of the most vital characteristics in any career. I don't care if you're an engineer or a doctor or a speaker or a teacher or a parent. We all have to adapt. And to me, the tools are the same regardless of the career. So for me, what pivoting and adapting look like, number one, you got to let go of the past. I was very quick to jump ship from, oh, I can't wait for things to go back to normal, and just go what was is over. I was so quick. I think it took me weeks. I know for months the world was like, oh, I really hope that things will come back to normal. And everyone was begging and pleading. I was very quick to go, that world is never coming back. That involves grieving and loss. You got to remember, my entire career that I built on my personal brand ended instantly, not slowly, because it was a global pandemic. It ended instantly. Because my career involves two things. It involves huge crowds of people and traveling. And both of those were banned instantly, right? So it wasn't a slow drip out. It was instant. I went from about 50 bookings for the rest of the year to zero bookings, zero income coming in. So the first thing you got to do is let go of the past. And you just kind of have to grieve and loss and just say, thank you, God, for giving me that experience. Now what's next? Second thing is you got to engage with the present. So when I went into essentially a state-dictated quarantine, so all of us were told to remain in our homes and not to venture out, not for work, not for school. The only two reasons was to the hospital and for picking up essential supplies. We were not allowed outside, right? And so during that time, I thought, okay, this is my present. How do I engage with this present? Well, I had Instagram, so I started on Instagram Live, and I thought, can I create the same conversation I used to have on stage, except via my phone? I had a grand total of 7 people that joined it. Very demoralizing, because the previous year I'd spoken to almost 250,000 people live. So 7 was nothing. And the next day I thought, let me try Facebook Live. And I had 3 people watching. I was like, oh, this is terrible. I thought, I wonder if there's a way to combine the two. And I Googled it and I found there is a way to go live on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. And so I did. And I thought, okay, this is nice. Now I can get a few more people. And I thought, let me commit to this. So for 40 days, I went on. And in those 40 days, 1 hour show every evening, I learned so much. By the end of it, I had also learned how to upload it onto YouTube instantly with thumbnails and, captions and all that, and to automate so much of the process that a company in the US saw one of these and contacted me and said, Dan, we love that you have a background. I mean, for those who can see this, I have a red-white background. It's a patterned wall. And I had a ring light and a camera. These are things I just learned along the way, whereas most everyone else was still working out of their bedrooms with a white wall. So this company was like, Dan, can you help our staff to augment their virtual presence? Something totally brand new. I said, sure. And so we started doing some trainings. And through that training, then they said, hey, Dan, we need to do an event, but we don't know how to do it virtually. Can you help us out? And so I started figuring that out. Before I knew it, Priscilla, I was doing more work than before. And I don't say this to boast, but I'm just saying this is the benefit of pivoting and adapting is my income tripled during the pandemic. Now, I know the pandemic has been really hard on people, and that's why I say that with a lot of humility, but I think when you pivot and adapt, it allows for some new forms of growth. So again, when it comes to adapting, the first thing is you got to let go of the past. Grieve the past, let go of the past. Second, you got to engage with the present. That involves trial and error. It involves embracing failure. It involves stepping out of the comfort zone. After all, I was talking to a camera, and I was not talking to real individuals. And third, when you do those two steps, I think it positions you for the future. So you let go of the past, you engage with the present, and that positions you for the future, because now I'm back to doing in-person events like I used to, but I'm also creating virtual events, but I'm also doing trainings, and I'm also doing consulting, and I've also built teams because I just chose to engage with the present and let go of the past. I'm now positioning for the future. And so to anyone, not just the speaking community, of course, the example I gave was, obviously you got to go from in-person events to virtual events, and that's how you do it. But that's true for any industry. You got to take these 3 steps.
What I really love is that you were able to say, okay, a little while ago, 500,000 people, 250,000 people, but today I'm going to go on Facebook, and it's okay if it's 3 people, and I'm going to go back again tomorrow, even if it's 7 people.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that you share that, because a lot of times we take a sit back and then it's like, that's it. But so good. Thank you for sharing that.
Very welcome. Thanks for asking.
I love that you have a personal brand business. And I think this is very interesting for entrepreneurs. We were kind of like, do you become a personal brand and be kind of separate, or do you focus on the business, or how do you kind of blend the personal brand and still be business at the same time? What have been sort of the challenges and the positives of combining the two?
Oh, I've never been asked that question before. So just to define terms, because I chose to go down the road of being authentically myself, my personal brand is my business. Now, if you set a goal that is different from who you are, then your business aspirations may be different than who you are as a person. But because I've just chosen to wake up every day and be true to who I am today, my personal brand is who I am, and it is my business. So I don't get hired to be an MC. I have the great fortune of being hired to be Dan Ram. They just like the package that Dan Ram brings, because that's the person that shows up on social media, shows up in these interviews, shows up in the living room, shows up in the grocery store. It doesn't matter where you meet me, I'm always me, because I've chosen to be me wherever I am. So to define what a personal brand business is, it's a business that is based on and developed on who you genuinely are as a person, not someone that you are proposing to be or pretending to be, but someone that you actually are. Now, getting there is a different question, but talking about the pros and cons of it, the benefits for sure is that I rarely, maybe once a year, have a bad day. And the reason for that is I don't have to be anyone else. I don't have to pretend to be anyone else. I'm not being hired or put in a place to do something I'm uncomfortable with. I get hired and put in places that I want to be in and that I am proposing to be in and that I'm good at being in. So I always work to my strengths, right? So for example, simple example, I have tons of energy when I'm on stage. Now, what that means is that clients that want that. So these big conventions, conferences, arenas, stadiums, they need that kind of energy, as do, say, smaller leadership camps or universities that are looking for some personalities that bring a lot of energy. And that's why I'd say, I think 99% of the inquiries that come in are for that. So I am set up for success. That said, I never get asked to come in and do an ad. I'm capable of reading, I'm capable of talking to a camera, but I never get asked to do a commercial advertisement. Do you know why? Because commercial advertisements are acting jobs. I am not an actor. I'm not pretending to be someone else. I'm not reading someone else's lines. I only say my own lines. Therefore, I don't get those kind of gigs, and I don't mind, because that kind of environment may not be suited for my best abilities, right? I also don't get invited to areas and communities that maybe are, let's say, conservatively serious, right? So, for example, I don't host medtech events because that's a traditionally serious industry, or accounting. I've never hosted anything for accountants. It's not a good fit. But when it comes to startups or students or anything that's future and innovation, I'm totally there. So the one major benefit is you're suited for what you're proposing to be, and your clients know that, and the world knows that, and the community knows that, and they're only putting you in places that you know you're going to do well in. And so I'm operating out of my best every day. And maybe once a year I miss the mark and I accidentally say yes to something that's not a good fit, but that's only like once a year. So that's not too bad. The second big benefit is I can build a tribe. I draw people that resonate with my frequency and my style, right? So it's not, for example, like when you get hired in a job and then you're put into a room with other characters and then you have to figure out how you connect with them. It's different when you're a personal brand in that I'm just me, and people who like me are drawn to me, and we build a community around it. Some of the negative things, it's mega risky. There is no safety net. So when my career ended, my in-person career ended at the start of the pandemic, the government was not writing me checks every week to keep me afloat. There was no insurance to bring the money. Like I just literally went to no income, like completely zero, no income for me and my team. So it is very, very risky. Second, it is possible to pigeonhole yourself to a point that you don't get opportunities, right? So I'm in a very niche space, whereas my degrees were in much broader spaces. So as an economics major, I have a lot more job opportunities available. But as an MC of this kind of energy and caliber, I have a lot limited. But if you pick a good niche and you're good at that niche, you can have a very lucrative career. But if you pick a niche, like if I was the best person at climbing apple trees, that's a very specific niche and may not be very sustainable. But I was just very fortunate that my personal brand is in a space and a niche that is. But that risk is there, and you can pigeonhole yourself and limit your own opportunities as well. I must also say it's incredibly lonely. And so if you're not able to deal with making decisions by yourself, building your own brand by yourself, encouraging yourself, believing in yourself, then don't go down this road, because more days than not, I have to look in the mirror and tell myself to get back up again. I don't have other people pulling me up. I don't have a boss holding me accountable or setting goals for me. I don't have peers that will be like, oh, it's okay, Priscilla, you can do it. I believe in you. Let's go out for lunch together. Or I see that you just don't have the same spirit. Let's go meet out. No, you have to do that to yourself. I got to check in with myself every day and go, am I at 100%? Why not? How can I improve? So it's a pretty lonely journey.
Thanks for sharing that, Dan. I think it really brings a lot of perspective to it. You know, like you said, you had plenty of jobs, pandemic hits, go down to zero. What do you say to your team? Like, what's the message and what you say to your team?
Oh, easy. And they feel this with me all the time. I'm just like, let's go. Every morning, it's just like, let's go, right? We're all doing this life thing together. I don't think anyone's got the book of all knowledge and wisdom, right? And so I have this almost unfair and unrealistic optimism, right? So I just wake up every day and I'm just like, all right, pandemic. Oh, that's rough, but let's go. let's figure it out. This isn't just true for business, Priscilla. Like, you know, at the start of this year in April, we had a devastating Delta variant that rocked India, like really rocked India. The government was so desperate that they were appealing to citizens. Like we were getting phone calls appealing for donations and appealing for medicine. We had doctors calling us. I mean, imagine that, a doctor calling, pleading, saying, do you have access to any medicine? We have lines of people outside and we can't help them out. And it's the same thing. It's like, let's go. Like I wasn't thinking, all right, the government will sort it out or the doctors will sort it out or some NGO is going to come in and rescue. I just talked to my secretary. I'm like, what can we do? And she said, well, she knows a caterer. The caterer's out of business. I was like, great, but he still knows how to cook, right? She said, yes, great. Let's go get supplies. And she said, well, we're not allowed to go out of the house. I thought, okay, who do I know in my network who can go to a shop? I appealed to them. I said, go buy some rice and some vegetables and some meat, pass it on to a caterer. And I said, cook. How many people can you cook for in one morning? He said, I can cook for about 200 people. I'm like, great, cook for 200 people. And then I told the assistant, great, now where can we go? She said, let's go to the red zones. And so we took a little van with all of this stuff and just started passing food out just for the one day. And then had the conversation that evening. I said, can we do this again tomorrow? Great. How much will it cost? Can I afford it? Let's go for it. And that's how it started. But before you know it, Priscilla, at the end of that month, we had made major donations of equipment to hospitals. We had provided medical kits for hundreds of patients, and we had fed almost 5,000 people. That was not the plan at the beginning, but it's just this attitude of let's go. There was no professional benefit from that. There was no personal branding benefit. It's just a spirit. And I think they feel that, my team feel that, and I embody that of just like, let's go. So I think having hope, I think having an open mind, as you pointed out earlier, believing that you can and that you will, I think having a joy and a gratitude, all right? So even as I lost friends to the pandemic, even as I heard devastating stories and heartbreaking stories, you got to have hope, right? Without hope, how do we keep moving forward? And I had to find joy. Sure, I wasn't traveling the world anymore, but I had a beautiful home to live in. And sure, I wasn't in my peer group anymore, but I was blessed to be with my parents. I know so many people are far from their parents, but I made a decision to come back to my family home for the pandemic. And you just find joy in these things. So I think you just come back to, you got to embody the values that keep moving you forward. And for me, it's been less about a game plan and a strategy and, monetary gains. It's been more about what are my values and how do I stay true to that?
Thank you for that. Let's go. That's the message. That's the spirit. Dan, thank you so much for your time. I always ask these last two questions. What's the number one book or resource that you'd recommend for an early entrepreneur?
There's a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. It's also a course that he's developed and stuff, but I think in this world of unlimited possibilities and opportunities and abundance, I think it's really about knowing your purpose, because you really could do anything if you set your heart to it. There aren't too many barriers in the world today, but that also can be really confusing if you could do anything. So I think you got to start with why. You got to know why you exist. And so that is a book that I'd recommend. Also, the one book that I have read my entire life is the Bible, and I continue to read that almost every day. So I would for sure recommend it because I get so many insights, deep insights about personal growth and professional growth from it. A lot of powerful leaders and stories in there. So I'd say those are my two book/resources.
Thank you. And Dan, what has faith meant to you on your journey?
Faith is the lens through which I see the world. When I look at my phone, for example, that I'm holding up for those who are just listening to the podcast, I can choose to use this phone as a door stopper. I can choose to use this phone as a weapon to throw at people. Or I can consider why it was created as a form of communication. And the more time I spend reading the manual and studying what it can do, the more I can benefit from its purpose, from why it was created. I'd say it's the same for me. I can choose to do whatever I want with my life. But the more time I spend in faith with my Creator, I understand why I was created, how I was created, for what I was created. And that comes with such sense of peace of mind, because I'm not out here trying to force my way through life or prove anything. I have a direct connection to my Creator. And if my Creator can make me out of nothing, He sure can do anything with my life. And that's why I have the peace of mind and kind of this abundance mindset, because I'm directly connected to my Creator. So faith has been the lens through which I view the world. Of course, faith looks very different for different people, and it is yet another journey that you go on. And mine involves lots of ups and downs. I'm obviously sharing the pleasant moments of it, but you better trust that some of this faith is involved wrestling and fighting and running away and growing through it. So it's not just all smiles and happiness. It's also involved tears and anger but it is the ultimate lens through which I view life and my purpose here on this planet.
Thank you for that. I know I've already gone way over your time. You meet President Obama. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, yeah, President Obama was a special one for sure. I was in awe of how he commands a room without saying anything. I had always seen this kind of poise and ability to command attention, like just through television and stuff, but I felt it. He has a presence when he comes into the room. And that was really cool to see how one can change the environment and the energy of a space without saying anything. He's also just a very kind person. While we're waiting for him to go up on stage, there was another act right before him. We ended up chatting about his daughters and the colleges they were going to and his wife, and we were making some jokes. And he also comes across as very human. I thought it was a dichotomy of being so powerful and remarkable and yet so approachable and relatable. I thought that was such a beautiful combination. I think there are a few people in this world that embody that. I've heard similar things of Oprah Winfrey, that there's just a presence to her that even celebrities are kind of in awe. And yet she's the person that people want to talk to. So you're not in awe and fearful, you're awe and you gravitate to them. And I've always thought, man, I'd love to do something like that too. I'd like to be that person as well. So meeting Obama was absolutely amazing, as is a lot of these people I get to interact with. It's always a great learning opportunity. So yeah, that was really special. A career highlight for sure.
Thank you, Dan. Now, Dan, where can people learn more about you and what you do?
So the condition for looking me up is that you're willing to engage with me. I do not use social media as a broadcasting tool or a sales tool. I sell nothing on social media. I'm only there to have conversations because I know we have a big global world and not all of you might be able to buy a ticket to come to a tech conference or to travel to where I am, but thank God for social media. And so if you are keen to grow, to learn, to ask questions, to see the world through my eyes, to watch the content and comment and engage with it, then yes, please do find me. If you're coming so that I can sell you something, you will be disappointed because I don't use it for that. So my name is Dan Ram, and if you just look up Dan Ram, D-A-N for Daniel, and Ram, which is short for Ramamurthy, so R-A-M, on Instagram is where I post the most. So if you just want to see behind the scenes of trying to live a healthy life and behind the scenes, behind stages and interacting with people, then Instagram's the place to go. I'm also on LinkedIn a lot. I share vlogs and blogs about 2 to 3 times a week. So if you just want to see what a life of an MC is, or a speaker, or a trainer, or just some of the insights I'm getting from attending these conferences, I usually share these again in 2 to 3 minute vlogs, so really, really short form. So those are the 2 platforms. Of course, we've got a website, www.imdanram. And on the website, I guess you can find out about the mastermind and some of the coaching that I do as well. If at all you think, how did this guy keep talking without saying and during the mastermind, this ongoing session that we do every 2 weeks with a small group. And of course, I've got coaching as well, one-on-one. So those are some options to engage with me if you want to interact in person with me. I guess those are the 2 ways to do that.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing so much. So thank you. For more information, freebies, and clips from various episodes, please follow us on Instagram at Reinventing Perspectives or go to our website, www.reinventingperspectives.com. Thank you so much for your time. We absolutely value your time, and even more, we value your feedback. Don't forget to leave us a review. Thank you so much, and see you again next week.